All right, I think we have most of us here today. I'd like to call the Cunningham Township Board special meeting for Monday, November 29th to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Here.
Mr. Evans, Ms. Hersey, Ms. Colasetti,
Here.
Ms. Bishop, Ms. Bishop,
Here.
Ms. Wilkin,
Here.
Mr. Quisenberry,
Here.
Mayor Marlin, she's not here, Ms. Chenoweth,
Present.
Mr. Williams. Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. Do we have any additions to the agenda tonight? All right, seeing none. Now is public participation. So before I do that, let me say this statement. Pursuant to the gubernatorial disaster proclamation, the declaration of emergency for the city of Urbana, Illinois, related to the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with changes to the Open Meetings Act, Public Act, PA 101-0640, it has been determined that an in-person public meeting is not prudent or safe at this time. Members of the public body will attend remotely using a Zoom webinar. Members of the public body may attend via Zoom or view meetings remotely on Urbana Public Television through Comcast Xfinity or Channel 6 and 1096. i3 broadband on Channel 6, AT&T Uverse on Channel 99, and streamed online over the web, which is livestream.com/Urbana. So at this time, if you would like to address the Township Board, please raise your hand. All right, I'd ask if any of the Township Board members have received email input that people specifically asked them to say. Okay, reports of officers. Do you want to wait, Danielle, until we get to the items, or would you like to just start off and report?
Sure, I can wait until the items. I just wanted to give the opportunity for Melissa Cartwright, who is an attendee, if she could be promoted as a panelist, and then she can speak up if I think Kim Stanthorpe was also planning on joining us. So they are both representatives of See You at Home. So yep, I see that Melissa has been promoted as a panelist so that she can speak. Otherwise, I'll just present at the item.
Okay, so for new business, we have resolution number T 2021-11-016R, a resolution authorizing the Cunningham Township Supervisor to sign a contract with Blue Cross Blue Shield for health insurance coverage effective January 1st, 2021. This is a reminder, this has to be approved by December 1st, for 2 days, in order for it to take effect. Danielle?
Yeah, so when you met as a town board last, I think there was perhaps some questions about which plan we were going with. So I've included the plan with the costs, and the costs are age-based. So I actually included the entire chart of the age-based costs. It is the same plan we've had for a number of years. It's P530 PPO, and the cost has been estimated for the budget, and the budget that you approved basically will cover the cost plus some. So if our census does not change, we will come under budget for health insurance this year with this particular choice of health insurance coverage. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Technical questions for Danielle? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Go for it, Chandra.
I move to approve resolution number T-2021-11-016R, a resolution authorizing the Cunningham Township Supervisor to sign a contract with Blue Cross Blue Shield for health insurance coverage effective January 1, 2022, I assume.
I'll second.
All right, moved by Town Board Bishop, seconded by Town Board Quisenberry. Discussion. Just want to make sure that the resolution has the right date on it. I did not, nope, it does. It's just the memo that doesn't have the right date. All right, will the clerk please call the roll? Oh, do you have a question, James?
No, I just wanted to thank Danielle for the additional details. I think if we had had that a couple weeks ago, this could have moved a little bit faster, and sorry for the delay.
All right, with that, would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Ms. Colacetti,
Yes.
Ms. Bishop,
Yes.
Ms. Wilkin,
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry.
Yes.
All right, that passes. Thank you. Next up is resolution number T 2021-11018R, resolution authorizing the Cunningham Township Supervisor to sign an agreement with See You at Home for inclusive emergency shelter. Danielle?
Yeah, so thank you. I'm excited to announce that after much discussion about how to address the homeless population that's actively unsheltered, See You at Home, which is a longstanding partner, has come forward to offer to fill that gap. We are currently working with about 25 street homeless individuals at Township who are at risk of freezing. We also work with another 20 to 30 individuals who are experiencing episodes of lack of shelter who are also at risk. And as I have reported to the town board in the past, See You at Home made a shift this summer towards becoming a dry shelter, and that has left a gap of services in our community. That shift came as a result of some safety concerns. And we at Township also saw increase in safety concerns and escalation, so I can relate to that concern. We essentially have been the continuum of service providers of the homeless, of which See You at Home and Cunningham Township, City of Urbana, and others are a member, put out a request for proposals to operate what we call damp or inclusive shelter services for folks regardless of their status in terms of substance abuse or severe mental health issues. So there were several organizations that responded, is my understanding, although I don't serve on the executive committee and we haven't gotten a full report. But See You at Home had the only proposal to meet the need in time for winter. Before that proposal was ever submitted, they approached Cunningham Township as a partner, and we've been working over the last 5 weeks or so to jointly draft the proposed MOU that is before you. It's my understanding that it's supported by the See You at Home board, and it essentially establishes 2 damp shelters, damp DAMP shelters, one for men and one for women at locations close to See You at Home's current location. I think there's still some work in terms of finalizing those locations. And they would have at least 1 security personnel and 1 social worker at those locations. And then there's a number of things that we're requiring in that MOU that have been agreed to. Part of that is shared governance with Cunningham Township representation on the steering committee. And we actually had our first meeting today. It went very well. And I got to be introduced to Melissa, who is the new executive director at See You at Home. We also are requiring that there be intakes overnight. The dry shelter doesn't currently have that. But we wanted it to be fully inclusive. If somebody knocks at, they're kicked out of their home, they knock at 3 o'clock in the morning, they would be able to intake. So essentially this would provide services for everyone in the spectrum between does not qualify for See You at Home shelter and is not in a state where a mental health or hospitalization is appropriate. So in that span. The third is that they needed to participate in our coordinated entry system and make sure that people are registered. We talked about full inclusivity of LGBTQ individuals without discrimination and with respect for a person's self-identified gender. So people will stay at the location, since it's men and women shelters separate, that they would stay based on their gender identity and expression, not their sex assigned at birth. I do want to also mention that sometimes there can be specific safety concerns with the LGBTQ population. I serve on a task force of LGBTQ inclusivity and homeless services in our county. And we do have another option as well in case there are safety concerns with shared dormitory style living. And I've discussed that with See You at Home as well. So just want to put that out there that both are options for that community. They'd also receive training in Housing First and trauma-informed care. And that's actually going to be co-training with our staff and See You at Home staff. And that's also an opportunity to build strength and collaboration between our staff members. And we discussed this a while ago, and it was kind of put on hold with the changes at See You at Home. But if a family presents at the shelter, which does happen since there really isn't another option in the middle of the night, that family would be basically screened. There is a kind of diversion counseling that we have produced using best practices. And so looking to see if there's friends and families or transportation to stay with someone. And then if there is no other option, then See You at Home would help to arrange housing for that person, and it would be paid for by Cunningham Township. So I'm really excited about that piece. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, it's very serious for that family. And especially as it becomes cold, oftentimes we'll see families staying in cars, and we want to avoid that in the winter, obviously. So this has already been budgeted for, so there's no budget amendment that's needed. It would come out of other grants. There's $100,000 we put in that line item, and we've allocated 2 grants, Solo Gracia and Channing Murray Foundation. They're not really grants, they're more like fee for service, and we have an MOU with each of that. Basically, the financial ramifications are that it's $5,000 of reimbursement per month. The inclusive shelter is open, and we would do prorated for prorated months. So right now they're planning on being open for 4 months, and that would be $20,000. But we did in the MOU say it could go up to $25,000 just in case they need some additional cushion or time. It's really cold in April or something like that. We just wanted to offer that option. And then there is, based on the steering committee report today, it does appear that if all of the boards agree to the staff recommendations from City of Champaign, City of Urbana, RPC, the county, us, See You at Home's board, they will meet their budget to make this happen. So we're looking at a potential open date of December 13th. That's contingent upon staffing and solidifying locations. It's a rapidly evolving situation, but we're hoping to pin that down. I do want to give an opportunity for Melissa and Kim to say a few words, and then we'd be happy to take any questions that you have.
All right, Melissa and Kim, you have the floor.
Thank you. Well, I mean, Danielle just did an absolutely amazing job covering all of that information. So thank you for that. I think we're just really excited to partner with you. I agree the steering committee meeting that we had today was just very encouraging. All the partners are fully invested in terms of funding, but also in terms of taking on leadership roles as needed within that committee, and we just couldn't be more excited, and we're absolutely, as Daniel said, just working really hard to get that December 13th date and make that a reality.
Any questions for Melissa, Kim, and Danielle? Chris?
Thank you, Mary Alice. Yeah, just a quick question. What's the this might be hard to estimate, but do you know what your capacity or occupancy, number of people served might be?
Do you want to speak to that, Melissa? I can also share what Rob has shared, but go ahead if you have an answer.
So I'm not sure if I have the exact numbers. I know that I've heard between 20 and 30 men and possibly up to 10 women would be kind of the larger end for those numbers.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well. And I think that is on the larger end. I think it'll probably be smaller than that. But as we've seen various winters, it's a weird feast or famine. Like it just, as Kim can attest, because she has been involved with Austin's Place for many, many years. It varies wildly based on the needs and the temperature and what's going on in the moment. The hope is that this would be able to accommodate all the individuals who do not qualify for within that spectrum I talked about are not necessarily going to be hospitalized, but are also do not qualify for CU at Home's dry shelter.
All right, other questions? Grace?
Thanks. I guess as a follow-up clarification on that one too, because so this is the new damp shelters that will have that low barriers to entry. And that's in addition to the current dry shelters available, right? And so that capacity of 20 to 30 men, up to 10 women, are you talking about the additional damp shelter or is that total?
That's additional damp shelter.
Okay. And I guess you said it really depends on the need and the time of year, but like, do you expect that would meet most of the need?
Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, other questions? I had two questions. I think, Danielle, you mentioned some of the other partners. So you said RPC, Champaign, and the county. Are there other partners involved?
Yeah, so in terms of funding partners, City of Urbana, City of Champaign, Cunningham Township, RPC, Champaign County, and CU at Home, all of their boards have to approve this. So I can't say that they are currently funding partners, but there will be proposals within the next 2 weeks to all of those boards for funding. And the total number that is being proposed does equal the need as outlined in the budget by CU at Home.
Are you able to share the overall budget that you're trying to achieve?
Melissa, do you want to get the latest on where we're at with that?
I don't know if I have the latest budget.
It's it's a contingency budget, so it ranges between $550,000 and upwards to $700,000. And the reason why it's variable is because we are looking for security at both locations. The City of Champaign is actually requiring security at both locations. So that would mean a security firm providing services. It wouldn't be police officers, but it would be a security firm. So we've estimated on the higher end of that so that in case it comes in, greater than expected, it would be covered.
All right, thank you. If there's no further questions, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number T2021-11-018R, resolution authorizing the Cunningham Township Supervisor to sign an agreement with CU at Home for inclusive emergency shelter.
And
All right, moved by Board Member Colasetti and seconded by Board Member Wilkin. Danielle, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that when you move, I had sent an updated version briefly right before the meeting based on some input from town board members, mostly typo issues. So I just wanted to make sure that that when you're making the motion that you're moving the version that I sent. And the changes to that, I'm just looking up now, just so that you're aware between what is online and what is being proposed is that it's the end of the year. So I want to call everything 2021, but it's actually going to end at 2022. So there are two places where the date needs to be 2022. One is operating through April 15th of 2022. And then this contract or MOU goes to until the end of the fiscal year, June 2022. So those are just typos. And then Mary Alice had suggested we add by ordinance in the anti-discrimination section. So it says, basically you can't discriminate based on any category prohibited by law or by ordinance, to make it clear that it includes our local ordinance in Urbana. So those are the only changes that I sent out to you.
All right, would Jaya and Grace, would you approve the amended changes?
Yes, motion with the amended changes.
Grace? Did you have another question, Grace?
Yeah, just comments, discussion stuff. Try not to lose it. One of them was thanks for putting this together. I think this is a great need and I appreciate the work that's gone into this. I think it's a great step, and I hope that it can fill those gaps so that people aren't left out on the streets in the freezing cold temperatures. So I really appreciate that. And I lost whatever else I was going to say.
All right, Sarah, we can come back to you. Jaya?
I just wanted to quickly thank Danielle too. She had answered a question for me about non-binary folks, specifically for men and women. So I think that's important to note that there are options for folks who do not fall in the binary. And I really appreciate the additional efforts to protect LGBTQ plus members of our community who might be vulnerable in group settings in this approach as well.
Yeah, as a person who identifies as non-binary, this is really important to me. So I would want a shelter if I was in a situation where and that I'd want it to be inclusive. It's also the case that it's required by law in the city of Urbana, that it be based, there not be discrimination based on gender identity. And that also is illegal in the state of Illinois. And I was part of a group to fight for that for about 20 years. So it was hard fought to get that inclusivity in the state language.
Any other discussion? Grace?
I don't remember if this was what I was thinking of before, but just wanted to share too in talks with Danielle, and feel free to, share more, but that we'll have the locations advertised and shared and how to sign up, and it's supposed to be these low barriers to entry so people can show up and get referrals and have the whole system. So I think that's great. And, just for the public, that there's plans in the work, plenty to share and make sure people know how to use this, these shelters and this resource. And I guess we're on discussion, but kind of a question, if that's okay, was about the report too, because the report is going to Cunningham Township Supervisor Office. Is that right? And I guess just wondering if Township, if we can have access to some sort of the reporting on that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's going to go to our committee, which includes all of the funders, and it is going to go to the continuum of service providers of the homeless meeting. If you'd like me to forward that report to the town board, I'd be happy to. And then just on the topic of people knowing about the shelter, we all participate in the 211 system. So as soon as the shelter details are worked out, which they have to go through these various boards, obviously, and finalizing the locations, but then 211 would be updated. And United Way puts out a winter services kind of directory, so to speak. And I would assume that will be updated with this information and sent out. And that is one way that healthcare workers, police, fire, that's kind of like the local standard to find out what emergency or winter services. And then obviously anyone in Urbana, I feel like we've gotten to the point where people know how to find Township. We get Facebook messages and phone calls and texts and emails and everything. And so if anyone ever has any questions, they can always call the Township. And we'll also post it on our website so that information is available in case it's after hours.
Is there any kind of notification or pamphlet or anything available at warming shelters? The official warming shelters in town?
Yeah, I think the United Way, so all of the providers that I'm aware of, including Township, when we receive the United Way Winter Services document, we print it and put it on our window, and then they have copies at the various shelters throughout the community. So again, that'll have to be updated once we have the finalization, but I made a note to reach out to United Way to make sure that we get that updated version.
All right, any other discussion? James?
I'd like to call the question.
All right, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Quisenberry,
Yes.
Ms. Bishop,
Yes.
Ms. Wilkin,
Yes.
Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Ms. Colasetti,
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
All right, that motion passes. And I believe there's no further business before this board. So I wish you warm, hopefully, and a good night. Thank you very much.